What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of the On Purpose podcast. I tell you every week, it's an honor to have this place in your lives and to be able to show up week to week and just share some thoughts. And wanted to kick off the month of November with a solo episode, what I want to call balancing the echoes. And it really came to me this summer when Andrew and I were at the Sturgis Motorcycle rally. We decided to get a different experience and go out and work something we'd never done before. And part of that experience, like I said, is working. We wanted to get behind the scenes, like not just attend it, but like work it and see what all goes into making this rally go. The people behind the scenes, the customers up front, and it was enjoyable, right? Neither of us are really motorcycle people, but it was an enjoyable experience. We learned a lot. And one of the things that really struck me was just how opinionated most of the people were that I met, and not in a bad way. They just believed what they believed, and they believed it strongly, which is fine, right? If you're going to believe something, believe in it. But it also challenged you to not be so close-minded you can't see any other possibilities. And that's where I came up with this idea of talking about the echo chamber, right? And when you think of an echo, right? If I go out into the woods today, out in the middle of Oregon where we're at, and I say, Jerrod is the greatest. Well, the mountains and the caves and stuff echo back at me. What do they say? They say, Jerrod is the greatest. If I go out and say, I'm right about this, and screaming at the top of my lungs, the echo comes back, you're right about this. The echo never says, Jerrod, you might be missing perspective, or hey, have you considered? It doesn't give you any other anecdotal questions or something to challenge what you're thinking. Neither does the echo chamber, which a lot of us live in nowadays. Right. And I'll tie that back to Sturgis. One of my coworkers had very strong opinions on damn near everything, but particularly politics. And he would just tell everybody that came within earshot of his stances on things and why he believed this, and this is crazy, and this is stupid, and that's dumb. And I'm curious. I like to know stuff. So I'd ask him, like, why do you think that? And he'd pull out his phone and say, look, it's right here. And I go, okay. What source did you get that from? He got it from a specific source. And next thing you know, he's off on another topic that he believes firmly in. He knows he's right. And he'd be like, well, why do you think you're so right on this one? He's like, well, look, it's on this and this and this. They're all apps on his phone. And it became clear to me he wasn't paying attention, or just chose not to be paying attention, I could say, to what I call the echo chamber, right? And what we know is happening in our world, and that is the internet, all the data they gather from you off your searches on your phone, your computer, your mapping systems, what you buy online, what you don't buy online, what you scroll past, what you click on. They're all algorithms, and we keep track of this. And websites will use it to know, okay, I only want to show content related to this because they like it, and I won't show anything on this because they skip past it. Filter bubbles, right? It filters out what you don't want, what you don't respond to, and feeds you more of what you do. Well, how dangerous is that for us if we're not aware? If we're not paying attention, okay, maybe not everybody thinks exactly like I think in the world, but all the information I'm being fed says everybody thinks exactly that, right? I'm it's confirmation bias. Just because I want something to be true doesn't necessarily mean it is true. But if I only search things that tell me exactly what I think is true, then it's easy to believe everything's true, right? That's one of the ways we get so divided and so out of touch with each other and the humanity of things is by just buying into everybody believes like we believe. That my opinion has to be the right opinion because look, all these other things are saying the exact same thing I say. But that's not the truth. right? An echo chamber, here's a quote I got doing some research. An echo chamber circulates existing views without encountering opposing views, leading to confirmation bias. It amplifies or reinforces what you already believe by communications and repetition inside a closed loop. Right? So that it's literally just feeding you the same stuff you already know or you already want to know to be true. Well, what if we manage that? Is it not our responsibility to manage our own echo chamber? Like all these computers, all the data stuff that is gathering, that's just doing their job, right? They're doing their job to sell you more stuff that goes in line with what you like, to not waste your time on stuff you don't like. You mentioned, oh, I want to take a trip to Mexico. All of a sudden now your ads are going to be trips to Mexico. They're not sending you trips to Russia, right? So there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. But is it not our responsibility is the end consumer, is the human behind all the computers? Is it not my responsibility to manage my algorithm? That's a question I want to ask you guys. Is it not our responsibility to manage our algorithm? Or do we just sit back? I hear this all the time. Oh, the algorithm's doing this, the algorithm's doing that. And we just think we're at the mercy of the algorithm because we're not actively controlling it. We're not actively managing it. So how do we do that? How do we control the information we're being fed? Or more importantly, make sure that we're getting both sides of a story or multiple sides of a story. A lot of times we're so caught up and there has to be this or a that side, a red or a blue side, a liberal or a conservative side. But there's many sides to many stories. So how do we actively take charge of the information that's coming to us to make sure we get multiple views? That's what I wanted to talk about. That's what I wanted to get to is, how do we do this? Okay, so the first thing I think you got to say is you got to admit your preferences, right? There's nothing wrong with having a preference. There's nothing wrong with saying, okay, I generally like this and I generally won't agree with that. Okay, the first one, as soon as we start admitting it, now we can start to manage it. Now we can start to go, okay, this is what I think. Let me see what somebody else would think about this. Okay, now, okay, so now we've admitted, okay, maybe I lean this way on these topics. Maybe I prefer this ideal over that ideal. So we admit we have our own biases. And if you don't think you have a bias, you're lying to yourself. Everybody has biases about something. You don't like red. That's a bias. You prefer this over that. That's a bias. It's fine. It's human nature to prefer things. Okay. Second, what are our sources for information? What are we looking at? Do we ever take time to click on the story of an opposing view? Do we ever, if we're going to this one channel for our news source, do we ever go to the opposite channel to see what they report on the same topic? Right? By balancing out, by starting to click. It's actually a strategy. I was reading about this. If I say I don't know, politics is such an easy one because it's coming up to that time of year. If I lean one way, say I whatever side I want to pick and choose. And if you listen to my other episodes, I don't like none of the sides. So I don't think any of them represent me. But if I click on a Trump thing, then I'll probably click on a Biden thing next. If I click on a Biden, I want to go to Trump next. If I click on CNN, I want to click on Fox. If I go on ABC, I'm going to go on NBC, right? I want to go opposites all the time, click back and forth so that the algorithm doesn't know what my preference is, so that it starts to feed me both sides, or that I can actually see both sides to any conversation. Next is be open to opposing views. Be open to, what if I'm wrong? Like, why do we have to be so steadfast that we have to be right on this topic? That really, if you think about a lot of stuff people have like very staunch opinions on, we don't know if we're right. You may think you're right, but you really don't know, especially when it comes to the politics. Right. And here's an example I have for you. When AI first came out, artificial intelligence, I was pretty dead set against it. I thought it was a terrible idea. I thought, oh my gosh, now humans don't have to think for themselves. The computers will do all the thinking. The computers will do this and that. It's going to write. It's going to record music. It's going to do all this. And I'm against it. I don't think it's good for us. But I had never used AI. I had never even clicked on an app for AI. I just made my decision. And then it was with a conversation with my friend Don Bowden, who did the Flip the Script episode a couple weeks ago. And he was very pro AI. He was already using AI at that point to streamline his podcasting, to streamline a lot of his businesses, to have the computers do the work that he didn't necessarily need to be doing, to free up time for other stuff that he enjoyed doing more than some of the mundane tasks. And I thought, so I'm watching him and he's doing it different. And I'm like, okay. Then he tells me, I'm like, well, Don, what about AI putting humans out of work? Like, what about AI taking over all the jobs that humans do? And he said something, I'll have to get him to give me the direct quote, but this is what I remember from it. It was something similar to AI will only replace humans who don't learn to use AI. And I thought, wow. Right. And then it took me back to, okay, people in our families refuse to get smartphones. I'm never going to get a smartphone. I don't need that. Well, what happened? If they stuck to, I'm never going to use a smartphone, they almost became obsolete, right? They couldn't communicate in the way the modern world is communicating, texting, social media messaging, direct messaging, because they were they just put a line in the sand that says, I'm not going to have a smartphone. So now they're capped. There's only so much they can do up to that point. But they never even tried a smartphone. They just had this belief that a smartphone is bad. I'm not going to do it. Similar to what I said about AI. AI is bad. I'm not going to do it. And then Don opened my eyes. I was like, okay, so now I give AI a chance. And now all of a sudden, it's probably been 6-7 months since we had that talk. AI has helped me streamline a couple of processes that took maybe 4 or 5 hours. Now it's down to 1 hour. That means I get 4 hours of my time back that I can do something else. I can learn to play my ukulele some more. I can do whatever. And the only way I got that is I was open to an opposing view. I was open to questioning, wait, why do I even think this? I never even tried it. I just read some stuff, made an opinion, and that's that. And I'll be honest with you, old Jerrod would have stuck to that. 20-year-old me would have stuck to that, and I'd have argued with Don for years. But 50-year-old Jerrod's like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Let me look at what Don's doing. Turns out Don had a much better, much healthier opinion about AI than I did. So when you're in these, when you're getting information, if you're starting to notice you're only getting one side, or you think everybody thinks like you're in a chamber. You're getting the echo chamber effect, right? You're getting fed information. Challenge it. Ask yourself, what's the opposite? And then go find some stuff. If you're using your phone all the time, go click on a few things that lead you the other way. So first off, admit you have biases. Admit that you have views. Second, start clicking on opposing articles, views, content that goes where you normally wouldn't go, to start balancing out what they feed you, what they give to you. Then the third thing I'd ask you is look at your inner circle of humans around you. Does everybody agree on everything, or mostly agree on everything? Is your group inclusive of different ideas, people? Is it okay in your work environment, your social environments, to disagree professionally and courteously? Or can you disagree without being disagreeable? Right? And can we accept, what about this? Can we start to accept that it's okay that you're not right on everything, and that your point of view doesn't have to be everybody's point of view? And it's actually a rather boring world to live in if all of us agree on everything all the time. And that's why I'm so thankful for this platform and for our traveling lifestyle, that I get to meet all kinds of other people that think differently to me, that live differently to me, that I can learn from. Because what I found out is the more I'm right, the less I know. The more I'm right, the less I know, because it means I'm not open to another idea. And what is the price of being right? the price of being right in a conversation. I have to make somebody else feel like they're wrong. Well, by doing that, I haven't learned from them. So I encourage you all this week to challenge, are you in an echo chamber? Ask yourself, look at what you're consuming. Look at how you're living. Look at the conversations you're having with people. When's the last time you went and talked to somebody that believes completely different than you, that lives differently than you? To learn from them, not to try to change them, to make you understand that your way is the right way. And I go back to that story I started this whole thing off with the guy in Sturgis. And quite honestly, he was so right in his own mind. He was so right on every topic, and everybody else was so wrong that he was completely intolerant. And his speech was intolerant. His mannerisms were intolerant. And what did it become? None of us wanted to be around him. He was not an enjoyable guy to be around. He wasn't fun. He wasn't lighthearted. He was so set on being right on everything and just espousing his opinions on all kinds of stuff that our time together, his time interacting with this random group of people that met at Sturgis for this 1 year, for this one moment in time, wasn't what it could have become, because he didn't want to learn from nobody. He didn't want to hear your opinions. He only wanted to give you his opinion. And I think to myself, man, what a sad way to go through life. If I'm going through life trying to be right all the time and feeding information makes me feel like I'm always right, what am I missing out on? So let's start off November. You got the election season coming up and all the hoopla that goes with that craziness. Challenge yourself to evaluate the echo chamber effect and manage the algorithms that are all part of our life. It's part of our life. It is what it is, but manage it. Don't be a slave to it. Don't just sit back, say, oh, it's the algorithm's fault. No, take ownership of making sure you're balancing your clicks and where you go for things. And then just be open that you may be wrong. Be open that you may be wrong. And here's what I'll tell you. One of the final thing to wrap this one up is I tell my kids all the time now, I don't know anything. I used to think I was the smartest man in the world for a lot of my life. Now I realize I don't know anything. And not knowing anything has been a lot more fun than trying to be right. Have an awesome week, everybody.